everybody. Thank you so much for coming. We have Miss StacyDeRosa here, and she's a registered dietitian with CPMC, so kind of over by where the old building used to be. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you all for coming today. We have our CE credit form getting passed around, and then as well as if you are trying to get CE for this course, you do need to fill out an evaluation. And if you don't mind, please make sure to leave these evaluations when you're done in a pile over by where Ernesto is. Ernesto's right there. So just make sure at the end that you leave that with him so you can get your credit. But again, we're just very happy to introduce and welcome Ms. StacyDeRosa to our school. And thank you so much.
Make sure. So thank you for having me. My name is Stacy, as Bernadette explained. We're going to talk a bit about essential nutrients and supplements today, and I want to define it and explain the whole industry in a sense. And it's a huge topic, so we're not going to touch on everything. And there's going to be a section as far as dental health in there as well. So if anyone has questions or concerns, I do take them during, if you prefer. So that's fine. Just raise your hands and we'll try to get everybody's questions answered as best I can, okay? So we're going to talk about what we need to know today. This is brought to you by the Community Health Resource Center. So as part of CPMC, we're located over by the Buchanan campus, and we do provide low-cost nutrition screenings, health screenings, mental health, health education. So if you're interested in any of those services or have patients that are, it's a good resource for the community. So what we need to know about supplements. So this is a huge, huge industry, $122 billion a year. People are spending money on supplements, herbs. It's about half of all Americans that are taking these supplements. Does anybody in this room take a supplement? I do. So some are recommended, not necessarily prescribed by a doctor. Some are, you read something and we're thinking we might want to do this, right? So we're going to go into reasons people are doing supplements. So in 1994, there was a Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act. So this increased our accessibility and also helped to kind of set standards in a sense where they're making definitions, regulating the supplement industry, what they can or can't say or do, and giving you a rough guideline. So we'll go into that. And then the greatest demands you're going to see are in heart health and weight loss. A lot of people will take a supplement for that. So the definition from the Portability Act is up here. So what a dietary supplement is intended to supplement the diet, right? So part of the name, what they can and can't say. So it contains one or more dietary ingredients, including or not limiting to things like vitamins, minerals, herbs, and it's intended to be taken by mouth. It can be a capsule, a liquid, or a tablet. And it's going to be labeled as being a dietary supplement. So it's going to be very clear what you're taking, right, as far as that goes. So why are we taking these supplements? There's a whole host of reasons, as I mentioned. So we're not eating the nutrients we need. This could be your perceived thought, right? I might not be taking in what I need. Some of the food that we're taking might not have as much of that available nutrition that we may need. So you're looking at 3 different egg yolks, right? You can see the variations of color, and you're going to see different quantities of your active ingredients in there based off of these things. It could also be if it's a fresh egg versus an egg that's been sitting around a while, and you'll see that with fruits and vegetables as well, right? So this is stuff we're aware of. So we're not necessarily absorbing these nutrients the way that we want. So somebody that has perhaps, I put 2 examples, celiac and lactose intolerance. It could be somebody with irritable bowel. It could be somebody that has Crohn's disease, where they're not absorbing what they need. It could be an issue with their intestine. Drug-nutrient interactions. So there are a lot of drugs out on the market that are going to work and cause issues as far as absorption. So somebody that's taking a diuretic may become, if it's could be potassium depleting. Your acid reducers can affect our absorption of B vitamins. So different reasons for that. And then when we're aging, you can see a decrease in intrinsic factor, which helps with the absorption of B12. So you'll see something like pernicious anemia, so somebody would be recommended to take B12 as they age, and that's something that you can do a blood test for. And then lifestyle. All of these things can affect our absorption of our nutrients. So it'd be recommended by a physician or something that you're reading. So our nutrient needs are greater than what we can eat. So in pregnancy, it's recommended to take folic acid, right? And then for growth and development, a lot of times somebody might read something that, I have a child and my child might eat more than what they're eating. They're not eating what they, what I want or what's recommended. So I might have them take a supplement as an example. And then disease prevention, I think, is a big one, right? We're reading about all of these chronic diseases and what we can do to help, arm ourselves. So a lot of people will say they feel like they're doing the right thing, controlling their health, want to do as much as they can, so they start to take these supplements. So we have essential nutrients of life, right? So I listed our categories, macronutrients and micronutrients, and under that, we're going to touch on each one of these, and we're going to discuss implications. You have 45 essential nutrients of life, so this is what we need to take in from our diet, and then our body can make whatever else it needs from this. So you're going to get this from a host of different food items. Did I see a hand? No, right? Okay, just making sure. So 13 vitamins, 18 minerals, 10 amino acids. You have essential amino acids. You have your essential fatty acids. But these are our nutrients of life. So if we're talking about protein, you have your protein, which when you consume it is broken down into amino acids. So you have your 22 amino acids. You have your essential amino acids that you must get from your diet. And then you have your dispensable amino acids. So looking at those different categories, this is why you'll hear vary your intake. You don't want to throw all your eggs in one basket because you get your amino acids from your different food groups, okay? 0.8 grams per kilogram of ideal body weight, that's your recommended daily intake from the USDA government outlines, what they're saying, what we should be taking in from protein as a general baseline, all right? And then about 50% should come from high biological value, meaning things like your meat, chicken, fish, things where you're absorbing your amino acids better, okay? And then these protein is good for building blocks for growth and repair as well as many other things. So it's an essential nutrient of life. You're going to get the micronutrients listed there on the bottom from your protein as well. So carbohydrates, we know carbohydrates provide glucose, right? So we need carbohydrates. You don't want to get rid of carbs in your diet. About half of your calories should come from carbohydrate foods, but we want to choose the most healthful carbs that we can. So you don't want to focus on things like candy, right? And for more than one reason. So looking at our complex carbs being our whole grains, vegetables, legumes, soy, as mentioned here, simple carbohydrates, sugars are fruits, honey, them as well. And then you're going to get the micronutrients listed here from your carbohydrate choices. And these provide, as I said, your energy. It's your first form of energy. If I go running, I'm going to need that glucose right off the bat, and then it provides fullness. So if we're talking about fat, we do need 1% of our diet coming from fat as well. You're getting your essential fatty acids from there, omega-6 and omega-3. Mono and polyunsaturated fats, saturated fats. I think a lot of us have read these on our food labels, are aware that we're getting our different types of fats, right? And we want to focus, there's been a big push for a lot of reasons to take things like omega-3. There's a lot of talk about omega-3 supplements, and we'll go into that later on in the presentation. And you're going to get A, E, and K from your fats. There's other things you get as well, but these are your essential nutrients you're getting from these food items. So water, we all know we need water, right? 75% of our body is liquid. There's recommendations for different intake as far as water goes, and a lot of things come into play when we're talking about hydration. So if you're saying, you hear that common recommendation of the 8 glasses a day, right? But it can be affected where we live, our temperature, our climate, our activity level, our age as well. So encouraging intake, you don't want to wait till you're thirsty. And water is best absorbed when it's sipped or in small amounts, okay, or when absorbed with food as well. So we want to focus on water as our main form of hydration. So when we're talking about fiber, you have two different types, right? You have soluble and insoluble. So your soluble, you want to think is when you're consuming it, you're going to get a gel-like structure. It traps the toxins, and then it brings everything through your intestine, okay? Insoluble, you're thinking like roughage. So vegetables, whole grains, you're going to find a good content of the insoluble fiber. So we need both of them. Your sources are going to be, when you think about it, it makes sense, right? Your fruits, your vegetables, your grains. There's going to be more quantity of one and another versus, I'm sure we've all heard, oats are going to be a good content of soluble fiber. Your vegetables have that good insoluble fiber, but you want to get a good mix. It doesn't provide energy or calories, but it is still an essential nutrient of life. So if we're talking about dental health, the Academy of Nutrition actually has a position paper, I'm not sure if anybody's read through it, that lists where you want to focus, your key areas, and then we'll go into deficiency symptoms and what you're going to see, your risk factors as well. But there is very general recommendations, but you're looking at your healthful foods. You want to make sure you have water. Some of the reasons listed are because you will see fluoride if your water is fluorinated, and you're using it versus something like a juice or a sugary sweetened beverage, right, as your hydration. We want to discourage that high consumption of that added sugar. Dairy is going to give you protein and calcium, which is important for strength and rebuilding, and you want to avoid the added sugar. So that's a key, I think, point that you see mentioned throughout their position paper. Your lean proteins, your meats, your fish, your poultry, and eggs, providing protein and phosphorus, so they list those for dental health. And then fruits and vegetables, the chewing helps with saliva production, which also helps with oral health. And then having that fiber, having that water content. So you're going to see that with your fruits and vegetables. And then your nuts and seeds being a good source of vitamins, minerals, and proteins. So they do recommend this section here. And then this is a chart that is actually from the position paper. And you can see it lists dietary factors associated with that increased risk and decreased risk, and then eating patterns. So this is what they're recommending when you have a client. And you may or may not see a higher incidence of dental caries, but you want to have them getting on this pathway so they avoid the areas that are seen with an increased risk for oral issues, and then focus on those decreased risks. So the sugar-free chewing gum, mints, candies, under those dietary factors, whole grains, low sugar bread, cereals. I'm sure a lot of you have read this or aware of this and are encouraging this with your clients, right? We're focusing on water, eating patterns, some things like not sipping on a sugary beverage throughout the day, not munching on food all day. So having a break in the time when you're eating. Having maybe set meal times of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, not having that constant snacking so that you don't have that constant food in your mouth. Eating pattern is associated with a decreased risk, so it talks about the 2 hours. Having at least 2 hours apart, there's fresh, whole foods, not processed foods, and then chewing sugarless gum, they say, can help it if you're doing that for a brief period right after a meal or a snack. Or you can help them brush their teeth to help get rid of any of that food residue. The thing with the sticky foods, that can end up adhering, right, to your enamel, which can end up lingering and causing a problem. So encouraging to get away from things like that if you're seeing it. And this is all stuff that I think is really important, right, especially when you're talking to parents and kids, so that way you get them on the right trajectory. So this I thought is interesting and helpful, added sugar in the diet, the top sources and their percentages. Some things I think is very obvious, and then other things you look at it and go, oh, all right, well maybe not. If you're not thinking necessarily a ready-to-eat cereal, a lot of people are very aware that there's added sugar, but some people it's not as obvious. They're just thinking, there's a big thing that says whole grains on my, it's a good example, like Lucky Charms, but you also have those sugary marshmallows plus the cereal's got sugar, right? So just being aware of that, just because it's got a stamp of whole grain on it doesn't mean it's necessarily a good choice. So educating patients to make sure they're aware of things like that. So nutrient deficiencies, so if we're talking about essential nutrients for health, what happens if we're not getting what we need? And this, you can see deficiency symptoms, so we're going to talk about that on the next page. But if we're talking protein, your omega-3s, your A, C, and E vitamins, things like zinc, what are we seeing as far, what could be effect on disease risk? What are you going to see there? If we're not getting sufficient protein, compromised wound healing, it could affect antibacterial properties of the saliva, so they're finding this from research. So making sure we're aware of this and our clients are aware of it. And then some risk symptoms, so if you're not getting your B vitamins, your niacin, how might this manifest? So if you see a client that comes in and has, in their gingiva spongy bleeding, abnormal redness, it's very unlikely that they have a insufficient intake of vitamin C in like today, but just as an example, you want to be aware of these things so that way we're making sure we educate. Because nutrition does come hand in hand with oral health. It is very important to make note of that, and it's part of working with the client. I know it's something that I'll talk to my clients from. I'm not a dentist, obviously, but I'm going to bring up nutrition and oral health because it does affect our whole system, and our mouth health is important. Plus, I don't want them eating candy either, so all the time. So what we need, all of our essential nutrients, as we discussed. So if we're going into supplements, they're not regulated by the FDA. They're not approved as far as safety like food and drugs go. So the Portability Act did give some accountability, but there's not a standardized, this is what you're getting for sure. I'm pretty sure a lot of us are probably aware of that, right? So how can we kind of wade through and make choices if we are told we need a certain thing? So the FDA only oversees the labels of a product, so what they can and can't say on their label. And then their supplements lack standardization, as I was saying. So there's not one rule of thumb as far as that goes. So you can have a varying amount, and you see it in the news all the time. So labels are not allowed to say that they diagnose, mitigate, cure, treat, or prevent on a supplement. They're not allowed to say that. So it can talk about how this might reduce your incidence or risk of disease, but it can't say, if you take CoQ10, you're not going to have a heart attack. We're diagnosing, mitigating, curing that. So they're not required to be standardized, which we mentioned, and there's no legal or regulatory definition as far as to what is applying to these supplements. So quality control is a concern. So if the U.S. Pharmacopoeia conducts the verification, but they don't have to do this. And if you're looking for somebody that is getting this testing, you want to see these seals. So if somebody just puts USP and just writes it, but you don't see the seals on there, it doesn't mean that they're verified by USP. It just means they might be following what USP says in their recommendations, but USP didn't verify that. And that's fine as far as the label goes, but for us, we would want to make sure it's verified, right? So we want that seal. Other companies that work with quality assurance are listed here, but they're doing testing, and one of the things is there's no standardization like if I was making a drug. So it's good to be aware of this. So if a client comes and says, I read on my supplement that this is going to help treat my issues as far as cavities or gum health, it's not going to take care of it for sure, right? So herbs are even more difficult to control than a supplement. So there are supplements. So if I'm taking vitamin versus if I'm taking, say, sage in a pill form. Because your plants, they're going to be different, right? So all different things going on with herbs. There are 80% medical treatments in the world are herbal. So it is a big business, but it is very hard to regulate. And there are no standards. So lemon balm, these are common synonyms for lemon balm. So any of these things can be written on a label to mean lemon balm. So it's kind of like, right? I feel like it can just be so many different things. So it's good to be aware, know what you're reading. The Health and Human Services, they do have drug and nutrient databases. So if you are taking something, it is good practice to research and look it up and make sure you know what you're taking. These are just some examples of herbal drugs in the US. So if they're a drug that's being prescribed by a physician, then it goes through the testing and there's going to be a standard. But if it's just an herb, then there's not. So standardization of herbal medicine is complicated, as I was saying, because of varying active ingredients from the plants. All these things can affect, just like if I grow a tomato in my yard, the nutrient composition is going to be a little different than if, Bob in New York grows a tomato there, versus somebody that has poor soil, versus somebody that has rich soil, versus something that's being flown in from somewhere else. So you're going to see varying active compounds depending on what's going on. And research and development of a new drug in the U.S., it's expensive. It goes from 500 million, and then bringing the drug to the market is 1 to 2 billion. And then drugs itself are expensive. So people are looking at these and saying, what can I do instead? So it's good to help educate so people are aware. So cost of R&D. This is a chart it was a study, I believe it was Johns Hopkins, where they're looking at the cost from the 70s to now, just for research and development of new drugs. It's crazy that it can be $1.5 million just to research something. And that doesn't include everything that brings it to the market. So it can be billions of dollars. So commonly used herbal supplements in the US and what they're doing for people. So you'll get a lot of different questions. You guys probably won't get questions on all of this stuff, but because not necessarily pertaining to dental health, right? But sometimes somebody might come in and say they're getting a headache, right? I'm sure that's is that relatively common? Like, are my teeth affecting, causing pain in my head, right? I've had people ask me that, so I don't know if that comes up in a dentist's office so much, but just as an example, the feverfew, migraines, headaches. Somebody might say, well, I'm taking feverfew, is there an issue? Will that help my headaches, or is it my dental health or something else? So it's good to know what's going on as far as what patients are taking. So the FDA has pulled products off the shelf because of incorrect marketing, and we'll go through a couple of different ads and products that have come off of the shelves. But it's kind of buyer beware in that sense. You don't know if what you're taking, if this is a new herb or supplement that's on the market, that could end up being pulled off the shelf because there is no regulation. So the 3 most common categories, weight loss supplements is a big one. So taking these things, and this can cause heart attack and stroke. It can affect blood pressure. It can affect our glucose levels. So being aware of what you're taking. Bodybuilding products is another one. Protein supplements. Steroids, there are products out there that have same active ingredients that were seen in a steroid and causing things like liver injury, heart attack, stroke, and there are actual cases that people are reporting, and these products are being pulled off the shelves because of this. And then sexual enhancement products is another big area that people are looking for a pill to help. So instead of paying for something like Viagra, people might try these other pills, and they were pulled off the shelf because they had the same active ingredient, which then was causing problems for it, because Viagra can affect blood pressure, heart rate, and cause problems. So if you're taking it and interact with other medications. So you can't have a supplement that has these active drug ingredients in them. Craze is a product that was pulled off the shelf in 2013. This was and it's up here because it was a pretty big product, and it had meth-like compounds in it. So people were getting addicted to taking Craze. And there was a big thing with FDA, and they had a whole news thing on Fox Radio, so this was pulled off the shelves. So next to illegal next to illegal substances, supplements is the next thing in line as far as dangerous compounds being found when you're looking at them, and there's no regulation. So there are about 25 people that work in the FDA that are overseeing over 4,000 of these products going through. So they're doing what they can, but it's just they don't have those guidelines to follow. So it's a big business, and it's not looked after. The Huffington Post, this is another example. So this Oxylete Pro, a woman took this and ended up having liver failure. So she needed a liver transplant, but became ineligible for it. but she was taking this product, and this ended up being an issue. So 29 liver cases in Hawaii just from this supplement. In the New York Times is another example of liver damage. Our high school student was taking green tea extract for fat burning, so he ends up needing a liver transplant. The message is that you can overdose, and I have a slide that kind of goes over all the key points, but I think this is something that we just think that because it's being sold, it's safe and it's okay, and it's going to do what it says, and that's not necessarily true. So manufacturers like Nature Way and GNC, there was just a big thing with GNC and the purity of their products. Did anybody see or read that? Where they were selling things that weren't what they said they were. So they didn't necessarily know it, but they're selling these products and they're not what they are. But when you're talking about herbal supplies, this is not going to help the DNA testing. So they can do it, but it may or may not give us an idea of what we're taking in. So, like I said, buyer beware. These are all the things you want to make sure you can't overdose. I get questions about, I take vitamin C. Is it okay? Not even necessarily, but a patient comes in, they're taking vitamin C, and maybe they're taking 10,000 units a day. There is an upper limit, and it's good to know it. So there is a point where it is too much, and it could be lower than you're thinking. And it may not be doing anything for you. There's not necessarily solid evidence to take certain things. But they'll read one page or one article and kind of go off that. So there's a drug-nutrient interaction is a big thing. They're not proven to cure any major disease or to improve heart disease or cancer. You want to be aware of things like botanicals and make sure you're looking at your prescription drugs because that can be a factor. So some of the supplements that are commonly encouraged, maybe by a physician or somebody it could be a holistic healthcare provider. Vitamin D, who's at risk? Most of us are at risk for vitamin D deficiency, especially depending on where we live. So 15 to 20 minutes per day in sunshine where 40% of our skin surface is exposed is supposed to allow you to get sufficient vitamin D. Things that can affect that. If I'm, say, dark skin, that can affect my absorption. My age can affect my absorption. If I've got sunblock on, that can affect my absorption. And we live in San Francisco where today is an anomaly. It's beautiful and sunny outside, so it's okay that I'm walking around in a tank dress, but most days I'd be freezing, right? So my 40% is not, my arms and legs are not out. So that's going to affect it as well. So I could be out all day, but if I've got long sleeve and pants on, it doesn't make a difference. So what is vitamin D going to prevent? I got some items listed there. Your sources, so if you're looking at food sources of vitamin D, supplements are commonly recommended. So adults, there's an upper limit of the 4,000 IU. If you're being followed by your physician because you're severely vitamin D deficient, they might recommend mega doses in the beginning, but they're going to do blood tests to make sure you're all right, that you're not going over that upper limit. So 2,000 IU to replenish and then 1,000 daily maintenance is a common recommendation if somebody's seen vitamin D deficient to help you not have an issue. 600 IU is your RDA for it. Ideally, you want to get what you need from food, if you can. So just some vitamin D supplements, and then they're just looking at the type and cost, and these are ones that have been verified as far as quality and what you're getting. So it's not for sure, but it's a safe bet. So if somebody was taking the vitamin D, looking to see where you land on here. And it is good to get that your vitamin D checked. If you go for a yearly physical, just ask your physician to add it on. Calcium is another one, and you will see fortified foods with calcium and vitamin D, and they work together for absorption, so you do want to have the both of them. You can overdose on calcium as well, so just assume on most of these there's going to be an upper limit. There's calcium citrate and calcium carbonate, and calcium is important for our dental health as well, right? So calcium citrate you're going to see is a little more absorbable than calcium carbonate. The carbonate tends to be a little bit more affordable. So somebody that has maybe IBD or has had intestinal damage, they might go for that calcium citrate, where carbonate is going to be something that you would take on an empty stomach and is good for just normal intake. Question? No? Okay. And that, so price and tolerance are gonna come into play. So your B vitamins, one group that ends up being, and can have an issue with your B vitamins could be a vegan. So when we're talking about why somebody might take a supplement, a vegan, B12 is commonly recommended, because you're not gonna see B12 in your non-animal products, like you're gonna see, it's gonna be in your fortified foods, so it would be added, so a lot of times you're gonna see a recommendation there. If you get a balanced diet, you're gonna get what you need as far as your B vitamins, and you would wanna work with your physician if you are taking B vitamins. So these are a lot of the common vitamins, supplements that you might see somebody taking. These are your most popular and what people are using them for. So a recommendation for CoQ10, a lot of heart patients will take CoQ10. They help with conversion, so it helps with the conversion of food into energy, your heart disease, like I said, and then some sources of CoQ10 on the bottom. So it is an antioxidant, so a lot of times, antioxidant I think is a big area that there's a lot of research going on, and people are looking for foods with antioxidants. And it's notable that the research isn't necessarily saying there's no proven this antioxidant in the pill form is going to do what it's doing in the food form. So 5-HTP, this is purely a supplement. And this is controversial, so there's no food sources for this, but they're saying this can help with increased mood, but you can't overdose on this. And you don't want it to, so extra tryptophan doesn't necessarily mean more HTP. So you can consume these food items, but this is, it can mess with people's blood pressure, mess with people's blood glucose. So if somebody's on diabetes medications or blood pressure pills, this can cause a problem with that. And you're worrying about the purity of the HTP. So what's going, and if there can be serotonin toxicity as well. So if somebody's taking this, if they're taking too much, you can run into a problem with that too. Have you guys heard of a lot of these supplements or these things that you've read about? Okay, I think the things like calcium and vitamin D, you're going to see the 5-HTP is a little, I think depending on where your research lies, you might run into this or not. But the eosinophilic myalgia, this is happening if there's a contaminant in the PGX from the tryptophan. There were people getting the EMS, that it's a neurological issue that from taking in too much and this active compounds. So they recommend the MD supervision, and you want to make sure you know what you're taking in. Okay. Lutein. So this is another big one that people will take, and there's research on eye health. It's an antioxidant. You're just going to see it in your carotenoids, your yellow, orange, and red fruits and vegetables. Okay, so focus on your food first, and that's what you would want to recommend to your clients as well. And then alpha-linolenic acids, your omega-3, so your plant forms, your flaxseed, canola, soy, the perla. This is an essential fatty acid, and I know there's a lot of research in omega-3, and I think it's covering all ends of your health spectrum, looking at what omega-3 can do and as far as deficiency. So reducing inflammation, and that's going to be, in general, covering different topics in your systems. Heart disease, arthritis. So if you have diabetes or schizophrenia, your body is not necessarily going to make the omega-3 that you need. So you want to, that's of note. So some recommendations as far as intake with your alpha-linolenic acid are listed here. And chia seeds is another source. And your recommendation for that's going to be right around the same as your flax seeds. So if somebody doesn't like how flax tastes, a lot of times they like chia. I don't know, does nutrition come up often if you guys are working with clients? Not too much, they don't really ask like general questions. Some people yes, some people no. I think it depends probably on the patient, right? Whether they're asking about it or not. Otherwise, does anybody in the room kind of start the nutrition conversation if you're noticing issues as far as oral health? Yeah?
Well, I'm in pediatrics, so we're always talking about diet and nutrition to the parents.
To the parents, that's good, it's important.
Yeah.
And I think they don't realize all the time what kind of effect that nutrition choices can make on their kids and their oral health. So I think it's a good area to really bring up with a client that you might not think of all the time. You know, especially if they're not gonna say anything, because they might not think there's anything wrong with what they're taking in, they just can't figure out what's going on. So it is a good area to talk about. And I know the supplements that I'm talking about, this is a little away from what you guys might see day to day. And I think the big message that you want to get across is that you want to make sure their diets are balanced, that cover the recommendations that the Academy is looking at, because it does affect oral health. And you can have deficiencies and symptoms depending on what people are taking in. Do you guys make omega-3 recommendations with clients at all? Does that ever come up? I'm not aware of, for oral health, that there is a recommendation for taking omega-3. Is anybody aware of that? No, I've never read that they say take 1,000, milligrams for oral health, but if you're talking about general inflammation and looking at that as an avenue of where this might cause a problem, if you have inflammation in your mouth, that could be a problem, right? So it could be something that, if someone's deficient, could come into play. And I know that omega-3 is a big issue as far as intake, especially in our country, not getting what we need from our diet. And there is a lot of times people just focusing on taking a supplement because that's going to take care of the problem. And the research doesn't say if I, verse 1,000 milligrams of consuming, say, salmon versus 1,000 milligrams of a pill. Sometimes they say it may be helpful, and a lot of times they say it's not proven to show, a change. So encouraging that good nutrition should help. SAMe is another very popular supplement, and a lot of these you're going to see effects with medications. So if somebody's coming in with different medications, it's good to know, it's good to ask what they're taking, especially if you guys are ever prescribing a medication or using something for a procedure. It's good to know what they're taking because there could be a drug-nutrient interaction going on. So SAMe is another very popular supplement. So it's been shown to improve the BPH symptoms is one of the things that people will look at. And then it is recommended for the medical supervision if somebody's taking SAMe. Glucosamine, this is a big one with arthritis and pain. So you see this a lot being taken. So 50% of patients do report less pain. But there's a lot of research out there that says this is not necessarily helpful and is controversial. Probiotics, do you guys recommend probiotics in your clients? So there's a lot of food sources of probiotics. You can also take pills, but there is a lot of different research, a lot of different strains, whether something is or isn't helpful out there. So some food sources are listed down on the bottom where you will find some of the probiotics. So we're restoring our balance to our intestinal flora. So this healthy bacteria is being researched for a lot of different things. So maintaining that intestinal tract, helping with digestion. If somebody's constantly having digestive issues, a lot of times their GI and gastroenterologist will recommend maybe a live to help them with their digestion to see if that improves any symptoms. So a lot of the things that they say a probiotic could aid in are listed up here. So maybe not necessarily coming up in a dentist appointment, but it's good to know. So these are just some of the different bacteria, and there's so many different strains, so it's hard to say, what one pill might or might not help. A lot of times you'll see different strains in a pill, and that's, they say, is a good way to go because you're getting different strains, so something may or may not be helpful. So it's just a funny comic. So things that aren't recommended, there are a lot of drug-nutrient interactions with ginkgo biloba, and this is a very popular supplement. So there is a huge study that was done for 3,000 people, and they saw no change over, for people over 75 that took this for 6 years. They didn't see any effect. So preventing things like Alzheimer's, dementia, anxiety, it's a big area that a lot of people are nervous about, right? Especially the family history. So doing the research, and this is something that people are going to, and it's your top-selling herb, and there's a huge study that says nothing. It's no difference going on here. So I would tell my client not to worry about taking that. So raspberry ketones, this compound is low in your actual fruit, so what they're doing is making a pill where they're taking extra of the ketones, but it's not, the dosage isn't clear, and any studies or things going on are lacking as far as whether this is effective or not. So a lot of people do take it as far as promoting hair growth, and then stimulating weight loss, which are two big areas that people are always looking at, and they're not saying that this is helping at all. Not the people, but the studies, and if there's even studies, they're saying there's no clear evidence of anything as far as this goes. So Garcinia cambogia, Dr. Oz had done a thing on this. Had anybody seen that?
Yeah.
So it seems like if Dr. Oz says, I should try this, then I should try it, right? But this is not proven to help with exercise performance or weight loss at all. And there are actually studies that say it can be harmful. So it's good to be aware, it just because somebody's a doctor, and I will say that, I don't always say it, but if my doctor recommends an herb, it's still good to check and verify and make sure. So it doesn't mean your doctor's not smart or doesn't know what they're talking about, but it's good to know, right? Fenugreek, so cooking with, there are a lot of herbs out there that there is a lot of research on. Nothing is there's not research that's necessarily conclusive, but they're saying there may be improvement of things that are being affected by using these herbs is in the form of cooking. So food first, cook with the herbs. Fenugreek, this is found to help with glucose regulation, as well as if I was a nursing mother, it helps to promote lactation. So if somebody was having issues with that, another reason. But you want to try to cook with these things. And the dosage is unknown. You're not going to see dosage recommendations for the most part with these things. Maca is another one that is recommended. Well, not recommended, but used. But you want to cook with it. Cook with maca. Okay. And then curcumin from turmeric. Does anybody use turmeric? If I use too much, I feel like it makes my teeth yellow. Does anybody else have that problem? There's a turmeric tea that does the same thing. But there's not conclusive evidence, but there are a lot of good studies, especially on populations in India, where this is used widely, and they're cooking with it every day. And they see, there was a study done on our community in India, where there was an elderly group of people that were continually cooking with turmeric for their whole life, and they had a very low incidence of Alzheimer's. You know, but if you separate the active compound from the actual food, how are you to say that it's not the whole food and everything going on versus that active compound? So going back to food first. Sage is another one. There's not conclusive evidence, but they're talking about its role in memory. The placebo effect is a powerful effect. So just by taking something, somebody might feel that it's making a difference. And I think there is something to be said for a placebo effect as long as it's safe. You know, so you do want to be aware of that. So knowing what you're taking, so just kind of to sum it up, the conclusion as far as your supplements and your herbs, knowing what you're taking, doing your research, check for that USP, and you want the seal. So if a client comes in and they're taking a certain supplement and they want you to look at it, I'll get that a lot. It's not telling you for sure this is a good product, but it's been verified with USP. And don't assume more is better, because there is that toxicity level. And choose foods first is another one that I'll always say. So you want to get what you need from what you're eating, okay? Any questions about anything? I know there was some stuff off of the topic of dental health, and then some general nutrition. Yes?
What's your opinion about almond milk as a substitute for regular milk?
So the question was, what's my opinion on almond milk versus regular milk? So if somebody has a lactose intolerance or just prefers almond milk, it's their preference. I don't have a problem with almond milk. What I would say to a client that's looking for that switch, you're not going to get the same protein that you're going to get from dairy that you're going to get in almond milk. It's not going to have you're going to get about 8 grams of protein from a cup of milk, where you're going to get maybe 2 from a cup of almond milk. You can also run into a problem of added sugars. So if I have, say, vanilla almond milk, it's vanilla and it's probably going to be sweetened. So you want to be aware of that as well. You don't want to have that added sugar in our diet. And the protein thing is another big one.
The concern is the possible unhealthy conditions the cows might be raised in.
That is a concern, so as far as cows, and the conditions that they're being raised in, there is a lot of research that now is looking at how the way a cow is being raised, what they're being fed, are they getting activity, and how does this affect them as an animal in the sense of their makeup, their tissues, and then their milk that they're producing as well. So just, I like to look at it as, and what the research is saying, and what I'll talk to my clients about, is that just like if I stood around in a pen all day and just stuffed myself, just so I could get fat, basically, and didn't work out ever, I'm gonna be unhealthy, right? So that's what they're seeing in these animals and what they're being raised. So the makeup of their milk and their meat is gonna be different, so less healthy. So yeah, if somebody, depending on finances and what somebody is looking at, they do have milk that's from grass-fed cows, and that's what I would encourage somebody to go towards if they have the means, if they can.
What's your opinion about the protein supplement, like the muscle milks? Are they safe? Are they easily digestible? Are they?
So the question has to do with protein supplements, as far as like muscle milk, as an example. I would want to know its application. Some are, so if I was, say, post-bariatric surgery, a lot of times the protein supplements are recommended, but you want to make sure you're choosing properly. So I would want to know what somebody was using it for, and I would want to look at their diet. As far as safety, it's not necessarily going to be guaranteed that the ingredients are, it is what it says it is in that sense, but it's a lot of chemicals going in there, so you want to be aware of what is being made. And then if you're looking at upper limit as far as protein goes, some of these supplements can have 30, 40, 50 grams of protein in that small beverage, which is more than almost anybody is going to need in one small meal, so you would want to look at that. And then sugar content is another concern. So what is in this actual beverage? Some of them can have a lot of added sugars. Some of them use sugar substitutes, which can affect gastrointestinal as well. So those are the things that I would look at. Is it a question you get from clients as far as protein supplements, or is it just like yeah. You can get what you need as far as protein from your intake of food. There's a lot of focus, I think, on overconsumption of protein sometimes. So it's, a lot of times they're not needed. But I would want to know what somebody was doing and why, and then kind of go from there. I don't know if that answers your question. Yes?
I had a patient ask me if I use fish oil and prostate cancer were related, because there's a lot of controversy on that, I guess.
Fish oil and prostate cancer, if they're related, like if I don't have enough fish oil in my diet, could I get prostate cancer? So if I take too much fish oil, I can get prostate cancer? So I've never read that at all. I wouldn't say for sure that's not true, but I would think it doesn't add up in my head that if I took too much omega-3. One thing, if you are taking a supplement of omega-3, there is an upper limit and it can increase your risk of bleeding because it does in your blood, so that's something of note. But as far as prostate cancer and that, I've never heard that. Any other questions or concerns on anything? We're okay? Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Great, okay. Thank you again, everybody, for coming. If you did not get an evaluation and filled it out, please make sure to fill it out and sign the CE form. We've got a couple in the back to sign, and I have this. Also, we just want to thank you again on behalf of the Health and Wellness Committee here at the school. Please be on the lookout in the next couple of days or so. We'll be sending out a survey, and we just want to get your input on what we're doing as far as the committee that's available to you all as a resource here at this university. And we just want to make sure that we can provide as many resources and options as possible so that we can all be mindful of our balance that we are doing with regards to work and life. All right, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Hey, how are you? Yeah. I was there, oh no, what was it? I was doing first year, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So I have the paper. Or I can email it. Was it this one?
Okay, I'm gonna be in radiology.
Yeah, but I'll find it.
So, thank you.
Thank you.